Okay, so what's going on? What's the date today?
Well, luckily they asked a young lady who knows everything that's going on.
Right.
She's the person to ask. She says, this is the March on Washington, D.C. And then she adds, it's August 28th, 1963. It was nice of her to supply the date.
Yeah.
There you go. So that's what she told them the event is. It's called the March on Washington. And of course, the date. And that also explains why there are so many people. Because a march is not the month. We're not talking about between February and April. We're talking about a noun here. The march, it's an activity, it's an event, it's a public demonstration. And this is what we'll call it when people go out to protest or to let their opinion be heard. In free countries, people have marches for all sorts of things, to save the environment, for rights for people, for things they like, or often more commonly things they don't like. And they'll organize thousands of people, often, in the capital city, to march by the president's offices with their signs and chants and all that kind of thing, just to let their voices be heard, and also to show how many people agree. So you get thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of people in the street for a march because they have an issue, they have an opinion, and they want people to listen.
Right. Okay, so they're at this march, they know what the date is, and they're looking around. Roxy says so many people are holding signs about civil rights.
There you go.
Now we're going to talk about 3 different things in this sentence. The first one is the verb hold. Okay, so we see that they're holding signs. Hold is spelled H-O-L-D, hold. And we use it in different ways. We say hold, held, and held if you're using different tenses to use this verb. Let's find out more about hold now. Okay, so the verb hold, we saw that they were holding signs. When you hold something, you have something in your hands or in your arms. For example, we could say, could you hold my bag for me? I need to tie my shoe. One more time, could you hold my bag for me? I need to tie my shoe. Okay, so they're holding these signs about civil rights.
That's right. That's what they're marching for. That's the point of their demonstration, civil rights. Now here, when we use right, we're not talking about left and right, but it's spelt the same way. R-I-G-H-T, right. Now, a right is basically a freedom that is given to you by the laws of the country or wherever you live, all right? We can have different rights depending on what country you live in. We also, in one country, might have different rights depending on how old you are, right? In some countries, you have the right to vote at 18 or maybe 20 or 21. It depends on the country. And so that means that when there's an election, when they're choosing the president, you can go down and mark your paper and make your choice. You can lose those rights if maybe you go to jail or do something like that. But in other countries, like in China, for example, they don't have the right to choose their president. They have different rights. But these are things that are given to you just by being from a certain place, having a passport, being born there. These are your legal freedoms, your legal rights. For example, people in Taiwan have the right to vote after 20. People in Taiwan have the right to vote after 20. Okay, and civil rights, which was the exact focus of this protest that they're at, it's basically making sure that everyone in the country, no matter who they are, is treated fairly by the law. Back in the old days, women had different civil rights from men, or black people had different civil rights from white people. And of course, that was considered unfair by more and more people around this time that we're visiting.
That's right. Okay, so let's move on. The woman, they're still talking to the woman, and she says, yes. Okay, so they were asking about civil rights. She says, yes. Later, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. will speak to everyone.
Okay. So this must be an important person. There's thousands of people there, and that's a very important thing he's speaking about. But Shaya has an important question. He says, who's he?
Ooh.
He's never heard of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., so he asks the natural question, who is this person? Who's he?
And she has a great answer for him. We learn he's an important civil rights leader.
That's who he is.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, so we know that they're at a march about civil rights, and someone's going to speak. He must be this important person.
It's true, they never asked me to speak.
Oh. Well,
I'm not important.
Okay. Well, the adjective important is spelled I-M-P-O-R-T-A-N-T, important, and we're going to learn more about it right now. Okay, we're talking about the adjective important. Something that's important has a big effect on people's lives. It changes their lives in some way. It could also mean that something has a serious meaning. It's very serious to some people, or it's worth a lot to them for some reason. Here's an example sentence. Kelly is an important customer. Don't forget to pick her up at the airport at 4 p.m. One more time. Kelly is an important customer. Don't forget to pick her up at the airport at 4 p.m. All right, so he's an important leader.
That's right. And they didn't just decide that morning that he was important.
No.
He must have done something before in the past to make him so important. Well, here's one of many important things that Martin Luther King did.
Okay.
He led the bus boycott in Montgomery, Alabama.
Oh.
This is a very important civil rights protest that happened, I think, in the 50s in the south of the U.S. Basically, the Montgomery, Alabama bus company made all the black people sit at the back and only let the white people sit at the front. And a lot of black people said, that's not fair because it's not fair. So he led this boycott. A boycott's basically when people say, I'm not going to go to your business. I'm not going to spend my money there until you start treating people more fairly. And it was organized, or it was led, this whole protest, by Martin Luther King. So Dr. King led this bus boycott in Alabama. Here we see the verb led, but it's actually the past tense of the verb lead. To lead, L-E-A-D. Yes, the past tense is led, L-E-D. Of course, what he did is in the past. But to lead, or to have led something, is basically the one who's the boss, the leader. You see how leader and lead start with the same four letters? So if you're the leader, if you're the boss, if you're the general, if you're the captain, if you're the one that everyone else follows, then you are leading this group. That's why we would call that person the leader. For example, we chose Mike to lead our group discussions. We chose Mike to lead our group discussions. We did? When? When did you choose me?
Well, just think about how important you are now.
I'm so nervous. But then again, I guess I could lead a group discussion, but I couldn't lead a boycott. I'm not Dr. King.
No, okay, so let's look at this noun, boycott.
Yeah.
A boycott is actually just saying that you're not going to buy or use or do something because you believe that something about it is wrong or bad.
Yeah.
And you can also use it as a verb. We're boycotting this company.
There you go. Often a company will do something wrong and people say, that's not right.
Right.
So they just won't go there and won't give that company their business.
Yeah, so actually this bus boycott, it worked really well. It lasted for 15 days in 1955.
There you go.
Now, African Americans just refused to ride any buses in Montgomery, Alabama. They had to sit in different sections. If more white people got on, black people would have to get off the bus to give them seats.
Or stand up.
Right, or stand up. Now, at the time, 75% of people riding the buses back then were black. So when 75% stopped using the buses, they stopped making money.
There you go.
Yeah.
So the boycott in that case had a very good effect, a big impact. Absolutely. And as the woman goes on, she explains what happened. She says, after that, after the Montgomery, Alabama boycott, black people and white people had the same rights on buses.
Great.
And why shouldn't they?
Exactly. Okay, well, Roxy agrees. She says, wow, it sounds like he works very hard for people's rights. And he did.
He did, absolutely. At the March on Selma, he was arrested, he was beaten, he was threatened in many ways, but he never gave up. And the woman says, let's try to go closer so we can hear him speak.
That's
absolutely, yeah. If there's a great man, a great leader, a great woman, anyone great who's speaking, you want to get closer.
Right.
All right, here we have this word close. We can use it as an adjective. We can use it as an adverb. In either case, it's spelled C-L-O-S-E.
Yes.
Close. So Shaya, Roxy, and this lady are going to move towards where Dr. King will speak. We're going to be talking about that tomorrow, but I can see from the clock that we are getting close to the end of our program. Yes, we can also use close when the time gets close, not just us. But before we finish off, we'll do our review time. That's really close.